Thank you, everyone. With the permission of the chair and my co-panelist, and I have my teachers here as well, and my friends too. I'm very thankful to be here. And my paper, primarily, I apologize at the outset, could be more unsettling for many of you because I do not provide any solution-centric approach, because I myself am stuck in this conundrum that what would be the future of work and how we should deal with it. So there are certain reality bites over here, and as a lawyer, I feel that it is important to come forth and bring this up in front of such multidisciplinary forum to make you understand and visible realities which are there. So to begin with, I would like to cite one of the media reports where it has just come in, I think 2 days ago, that over 6,000 postgraduates and 40,000 graduates and 1.2 lakh candidates who have studied up to 12th class have applied for a position of sweeper in Haryana. And the contractual job profile of the position is to clean offices of government departments, boards, corporation and civic bodies. And this is nothing new which I'm sure that all of you must have been hearing it on the daily basis. But here the problem is not with the nature of work or judging the status of the work, but rather a deep-rooted problem. That is absence of work and our inability to assess the actual reason of the same. Why this example becomes imperative at this forum where we are discussing labor law and technology, I'll come to that in some time. So what I attempt to argue is in the light of evidences and empirical aspects which I've been doing throughout my research and in my legal practice as well, which are indeed not exhaustive, the impact of automation on employment and the notion of large-scale technological unemployment in India. With my limited research, I find it pretty exaggerated. And I do have reason to say that. So in the aim to counter the exaggerated narrative of technological advancement, rendering jobs redundant, and therefore massive unemployment, and the state stand that we need to dilute the protective labor legislations. I primarily want to focus on the dilution of the labor laws, and to be more clear and more specific about it, by the labor laws, I do not mean only the semi-skilled or unskilled or the labor workforce which are working. That would be applying very soon to each and every one of us. So when we talk about the dilution part, the dilution would be applying to each and every one of us, because the whole labor law scaffold has completely been changed. It has been dismantled and given a different structure altogether. So what happens, that state stand, as we see, is to dilute labor protective legislation in order to save jobs. So the whole idea, the whole narrative is that if we want to save jobs, create more jobs, let us do away with these protective legislation. There's no need to do that. And this has very, very underlying psychophancy and affinity towards the capital, narrative. Unfortunately, even our source of knowledge has been very journalistic frame of reference, wherein we are too swift to give our judgments and accept universal truth that what meets our eye is the true, wherein we do not actually delve that what is fed to us is strategic in nature or not. So in present times, what we see that one of the most widely discussed subject is steep automation, mechanization, fear of artificial intelligence engulfing human employments. But the first example I cited at the beginning of my presentation seems very unrelatable. Have these postgraduates or graduates applied for sweeper jobs due to technological advancement that has rendered their skills redundant? We really need to introspect this. So as an extension to this narrative, which is the main focus of my paper, it is often claimed that collective bargaining has to be further debilitated in present times due to the rise of automation. And with this redundancy theory of collective bargaining, resultant mechanisms like structure and most importantly regulatory and legislative structure has to be weakened, which should embolden the pro-liberal narrative. Technological disruption, as Sir has also pointed out, is hardly a new phenomena. It has happened in every era. Albeit the intensity and the pace of proliferation is a significant point to be concerned about, and it is not in dispute, definitely. But the pertinent question to ask this, whether the projection of technological disruption has a cause-effect roundup, whether we have been able to take a step further and gauge that labor market disruptions and the resultant impact on employment, structural attributes, administrative angles, legal and regulatory scaffolds, are they correlated to each other? Inherently, it has been observed that in contemporary environment, where even the state wants a thriving of the free market, constantly argues that there has to be positive relationship between business profitability and public good, to the extent that they derive a significant positive correlation between growth of the capital and prosperity of the labor, which if happens is very true, but it's not happening actually. So what we see that there are waves of two unsettling and very confident arguments, which is often referred to by the state time and again. One, that the foremost responsibility of the state is to safeguard the interest of the business, and the second one is the hyperbole of employment protection is very mythical. I mean, we should clearly do away with it. It is irrelevant in the present world order. So the whole accusations is on the protectionist legislations, like if we have worker protective legislations, equal wages, equal pay for equal work, all seems very irrelevant in these times according to the present narratives. So what we see that the whole academic and practicing utopia has been created through the sizable literature which is coming. I mean, there are literature which is also cited in my paper. Due to lack of time, I won't be citing many of them, but there are multiple I don't know who funds those studies, but there are multiple studies who have these narratives and are referred to the government policy schemes and programs. One is Besley and Burgess study, which totally says that do away, koi law ki zarurat nahi hai, sort of. So this literature proposes the idea of flexibility, envisages the minimalistic regulatory enforceability and non-restrictive scaffold where the worker and the employer are into a relationship which is loosely bound by hire and fire, which I think Vagish also very clearly said. And such arguments seem to have a very strategic placement, and many studies attempt to link the inverse relationship between protective legislations and the production part. We also see that the precariousness, not the guy standing perspective, but the precariousness in the real sense, what we actually, the dictionary meaning of precariousness and vulnerability, has been completely ignored through this study. The claim is that reform shall increase the employment percentages, have been abnormally silent on the nature of jobs produced, wage dynamics, social security coverage, as well as collective bargaining power. And here it is pertinent to note that simultaneously 38 labor legislations, which 40-50 years of precedent and common law tradition and all the legislation amendments have gone through into those 38 legislations, have been dismantled, and they have been converted into 4 labor codes. And these 4 labor codes, flimsy and flaccid, I'm saying on record, to be called labor protective in nature. So if they have any capability, they are capable enough to bring the legislative catastrophe of labor and employment laws in future. Another point of contention in this narrative is, the created projection wherein in the light of disruptions, say the black swan events like COVID-19, or some part of the world is in a war, or there is economic slowdown in the global north, and topping the chart, of course, the technological disruption and AI, etc. One says that it is reasonable to expect that one lands into employment which is not fair. Fair wages, fair security, bargaining power, no need for that. One really needs to delve into root of such claims, where a sorry state of affairs is depicted in our minds, where we are more or less convinced. Yes, that is true. Majority of jobs are becoming redundant, and we have no choice to accept our fate being vulnerable workers in the market with such precarity. So whatever minuscule we are getting in our hands is enough. The feeling is very aptly expressed through this lines of the song of Nusrat Fateh Ali Khan Sahab. जितना दिया सरकार ने मुझको उतनी मेरी औकात नहीं, ये तो करम है उनका, वरना मुझ में तो कोई बात नहीं. Whereas, I have been engaged into my 5 years research, which is still ongoing, and I say that we have labor cases in the courts as well. It is indeed not in dispute that technological enhancements are rendering precarity and jobs are being redundant. But what is actually happening has to be seen in a very multi-faceted format, where we have to really see different sectors. So my intervention was to get into 3 sectors, primarily the automotive sector, followed by the banking financial services, BFSI, then IT and ITS industries. So there is a lot of hullabaloo which is happening around these sectors. But the rule of parity doesn't apply to them. There is difference. Every one size fit all is not the reality. There are jobs happening. There are job loss happening in IT sector, but whether or automotive sector or BFSI, whether it is all happening due to the technological enhancement or because the state has become very oblivion. They are not interested in creating avenues for the workforce which is really rendering jobless. So that has to be really understood. Also, how much time, sir, I have left? Only 2 minutes. So I would really request you all to read my paper, because there are many things which I wanted to talk about. But I just want to talk about, I had a case study from the automotive sector, which is a real case study I have worked on. That is Honda motorcycle industry, which is in Tapukara, Gurgaon. I wanted to talk about that, but right now I just want to focus on the skill and the whole skilling narrative of the Indian state, and how there is this mismatch where we talk about the low or medium skilled workers and the state's idea of automation vis-a-vis protection of worker. It definitely yields a very contradictory standpoint. So on one hand, we see that labor law reforms being necessary owing to the global competitiveness demanding so, and the automation is one imperative component, thus by making regulatory framework more responsive for the economic health of the worker. But secondly, what we see when the state is also realizing that the medium and low skilled workers are at the margins in terms of technological enhancement, as we see the whole Skill India program or the whole movement, so to say, around the skilling of the country, what it has offered. Has it offered or provided a future ready solutions? The policy of the Skill India document says jobs creation for skilled youth is a major challenge before the nation. Entrepreneurship based on innovation has immense growth potential. So prima facie, at the outset, it is accepted. Job creation for skilled youth is difficult. So entrepreneurship is a way. And the significance of exploring the Skill India at this juncture is to understand the underlying aim of the narrative of skilling and upskilling the citizen, which has much ado in the country, and which actually has no association with the skill gap speculation of employability, which we are envisaging in the changing technological milieu. So the tall claims, just 1 minute and I'll wrap up. The tall claims of state doing exceptionally well in identifying skill gaps and in terms of catering to same actually condenses into a very allegorical proposal that encapsulates the programs such as beauty and wellness, food packaging, and auto component assemblage, etc., which has already reached to the saturation in the job market. So the parabolic claim of thriving entrepreneurship culture and encourage the same in the present times through skilling is not a convincing proposition. Rather, the large population who live under the shadows of speculating de-skilling under the garb of self-employment, the state also accepts as well as consents the atypical and informal forms of employment. So just to round up, I cannot go into detail of that, but the laws except there is atypical and informal forms of employment. That means if you do not have job, if you are a platform worker, if you are an on-call worker, there is an acceptance from the state, or the state has consented that we cannot do much about it. This is fine. At the max we can bring in some sort of protective coverage, which is actually practically not even seen. If you talk to your say the platform worker or the Uber driver or anybody for that matter, the worker protectionist legislation is completely missing, which is claimed through these different codes. So here, to just wrap up, it is very important to see that we should not have a blanket approach to everything, that okay, technological advancement, rise of AI or chat GPT. Just to end with a very anecdotal reference, one of my friends who teaches in a law school says that we are not needed anymore because बच्चे तो chat GPT से ही पढ़ लेते हैं. So this whole feeling, I think, is not coming out of the very out of nowhere. It is very strategic, that why we who have such a training, who have had rigorous years of our PhDs and everything, are bound to feel that we are no more required. So that has to be rebutted and vigorously challenged by the academic world and the practitioners as well. With this I end. Thank you so much for the opportunity. Thanks.